If I have 50k to renovate this house, I will not try to fix everything. Story time. My friend recently bought this house and asked me to help figure out what's actually worth spending on. And because my friend is planning to demolish the current house and rebuild a new one in the future, so I'm not gonna go crazy on any structural changes, and my suggestion is pretty simple. If a house doesn't have any major defects, I will focus on the things that annoy you every day and the things that will give you the biggest visual upgrade without blowing the budget. First thing I would do is the timber flooring. This is one of the biggest visual things that needs to be fixed in my friend's house, and I believe it is the same in a lot of older houses. This is the original timber flooring in my friend's house. It has a warm honey-toned color that you often see in older homes, but the floor has also become quite noisy and creaky when we walk across it. If you have timber flooring that looks dated or old, even if you have new paint or if you have new joinery, new furniture, the house will still feel older than it is. So to me, this is a pretty clear spend. I will replace the whole timber flooring properly and make it the foundation of the whole update. For the cost-wise, this is also the biggest item in the plan. It is roughly 15k for 100 square meters, including removing the old timber flooring and replacing it with the new timber flooring. Of course, it depends on what timber options you are picking. It will be different at the end, but 15k for 100 square meters is pretty reasonable. I'm not gonna go deep into what timber options there are because that's a rabbit hole itself. So I think it deserves a separate video, so stay tuned. Second thing, the gas fireplace. This is the living room, and you can see there are a few things that make the space feel quite dated, like the old style corners and the skirting, but the fireplace is probably the first thing that catches your eye. It's not centered in the room, first thing, and my friend doesn't actually use it, so I think this is something that we can easily remove. Having a vintage looking gas fireplace in the living room in this house makes sense years ago. But it doesn't really make sense anymore if my friend wants a more modern looking house and if they don't use the fireplace anyways. So there's really no point of keeping it there. And a bonus point to this suggestion is that it is actually quite cheap to remove the fireplace. It will only cost you a few grands. So my suggestion is remove the fireplace. Do not touch the chimney until you knock down the house. Otherwise, you're just gonna waste your money. Put plasterboard in to cover the hole. Do the patching, do the new paint, and boom, you get a new wall that makes the room feels much lighter instantly. Next, I will look at the lighting in the main living area, especially your dining and living room. Even if the house is bright enough, all light fittings can really make a space look and feel super flat. I am not telling you to rip apart your ceiling and put a lot of downlights in, especially when you're not doing a full house renovation. Sometimes just changing the main lights in the key rooms can really make a big difference and make the space look more modern. So I'll just keep it simple here. I would allow 1k to 1.5k for the light fittings in the living and dining area. Now, the kitchen. This is where I'll be really careful because a full kitchen renovation can easily go about 50k on its own. In my friend's case, the cabinets in the kitchen do look pretty old and dated. However, the layout is actually fine and the floor tile is also new. So I wouldn't really invest too much money in the kitchen. Instead, I'll just do a light refresh. I will fix the obvious annoying things first. There are two mixers in the sink for some reason, and both the sink and mixers are rusty, so I'll replace them with the new ones, and this will roughly be under 1k. Then I will find a simple way to try to fix the cabinets and make it look less dated. There are two ways to do it. You can either paint the laminate cabinets, but it's gonna wear out very quickly. These are painted laminate cabinets. If you do DIY, it will be under 1k for a small kitchen, roughly 1.5k to 5k for professionals, depending on the size of the kitchen, obviously. The other way is to change the cupboard doors, replace them with new cupboard doors and new color. However, it is a question for yourself to answer if this is actually worth it if you're gonna knock down your house in the future, because everyone's situation is different. Some people might be able to afford it and think it is more urgent to change the way how it looks first, or some people will save it later for a bigger kitchen renovation. So this is a question for yourself to answer, but to me, it would just be a light refresh. I wouldn't do a full kitchen renovation. Then I would think about the bedrooms. There's no built-in wardrobes in 2 of the rooms. However, the house right now is not the end goal, so I wouldn't really sink a big chunk of money into custom built-ins. Instead, I will buy good quality freestanding wardrobes. That way, your money is still useful now, but it doesn't get locked into something that might get ripped out later. For the bathroom, because it is newly renovated, so we're just gonna leave it as it is. There is a 1.8 meter tall hot water unit in the laundry room. However, relocating the unit requires a bit of plumbing work, so it's not really worth it. I would say just leave the space as it is and leave it as neat as possible. You will still probably have a bit of money left. I recommend leaving yourself some buffer for the renovation. If you really want to spend it on replacing old door handles or old cupboard handles, especially if they don't have the same styles. Apart from everything that I said I would do, here's one thing that I would 100% skip on with a 50K budget. I would not do a major layout change. So this is the floor plan of my friend's house. The living room and dining room are separated by a bedroom in between, which I think is a little unusual. It's also not an open plan layout, which I actually think can work quite well for practical living. But having a bedroom sitting in between the 2 main living spaces does make the layout feel a little disconnected. I did tell my friend that the layout of the house, it's not the most ideal. However, it is not the biggest issue right now, especially if I know I'm gonna rebuild the house in the future. Changing the layout, like a major change in layout, it's basically spending your money on the same thing twice. I will only touch the layout if it is a very minor work. So yeah, if I have 50K here, I will spend on the big visual fixes first and be careful everywhere else. When it comes to renovation, it's about spending your money in the right order. Otherwise, you're gonna blow your budget really easily. Let me know in a comment below your thoughts on this renovation plan and feel free to share your own experience as well.